everybody. My name is Karen Trujillo. Today is May 17th, 2021, and I believe this might be a first time ever for Co-Creators Convergence. We are recording a conversation with Mandi Solk, and we will be sharing this on our Thursday Co-Creators Convergence call. So I am a family coach with Surf in Your Soul Family Services. I am a longtime partner of Co-Creators Convergence, Barbara Marx Hubbard Legacy Group. And we are here with Noelle, we are here with Mandi, whom I'll be introducing in a moment, and really asking ourselves, asking each other, each of you, what Barbara Marx Hubbard asked us. What gifts are you sharing and offering towards the evolution of humanity? So let's just take a moment with that question to close our eyes. Take a deep breath. And if you feel to put your hand on your heart and anchor in this deep connection from the UK, the Hawaiian Islands, Tennessee, and everywhere that all of us will be joining from when we share this interview live. And ask yourself, you're welcome to open your eyes. In those few seconds, did you feel the sacred pause? How often do you allow yourself to take the sacred pause? This is something that was shared last week on our last Thursday call, this phrase, the sacred pause. And what I came to know throughout the week is that each time my heart is beating, and that I'm taking a breath of love in and exhaling a breath of love is an opportunity for sacred pause. So again, thank you for being here with us. I am so honored to introduce Mandi. And Mandi was invited to the co-creators conversation by Sebastian Blakesley. Sebastian joined us on Holy Thursday this year. I believe that was April of 2021. And we had a phenomenal dance conversation in love. And what we always do in these conversations is we have a guest on and we ask, who would you like to invite? And Sebastian said, I would love to have Mandi come on and share. And the thing that I noticed immediately when I began to learn a little bit about Mandi is they both live with this, the word is just this vitality, this choice of there's two ways to live, with love or without it. So let's always choose love. And Mandi is going to take some time to share with us all of her gifts. She has had many experiences in her life, trauma, near-death experiences. She's studied a variety of religious modalities, all of which have just continued to shape and mold her to bring her gifts into revealing our soul. And I want to make sure I do say that right, healing by revealing soul. And what really resonated for me, Mandi, as you know, someone who's always looking to surf in my soul and encourage others to, is you share that there's nothing we really need to be trying to do. There isn't efforting involved. Revealing the soul, awakening to the truth and to our spirit of who we are. This is what Mandi assists others in doing with her words, with her poetry. And when we think poetry, we sometimes have a certain framework in our mind of what poetry is. And what we're going to find out tonight from Mandi is she has found this entirely other inspirational source of how to use words to transform your life, transform your soul. And I'm so grateful that you're here with us, Mandi. We're going to be learning more about you, the book that you're writing, and I welcome you, and I'm going to hand it over to you to start us off here.
Thank you so much, Karen and Noelle. It's just great. It's just really lovely and a real honour to be here. I mean, it really is. So I'm just so happy. Um, I think that yeah, this is something that started just a few years ago, and it's quite new because the things that I've been doing before and sort of I wrote a few years ago a little book called The Joy of No Self, which is sort of more about in the non-duality field. And then I've been sort of doing kind of meetings and little, I wouldn't call them, well, they are satsangs, which is meeting with truth, but it sounds a bit grand. I'm a very small time sharer, not a big time sharer, you know. But that's the kind of thing that I've been sharing about, and always and doing videos about exactly what you said, really. Not efforting, about just allowing everything to be as it is, and just seeing the perfection in every moment, so that we're not suffering over our suffering. So if something happens, um, you know, like for instance, as I've explained to you, that I went through having to put my dog down on to sleep on Thursday, which was totally devastating and heartbreaking. I've been with him since he was 5 weeks old, and it's for 15 years. But the reason I mention it is because things like that, big things, um, they feel heartbreaking. There's no doubt, and they shake you, But you don't have to be stirred. It's like shaken, not stirred. Absolutely shaken. Everything in my and crying out loud. There's all that been happening, but it's just a sort of allowing it to be the way it is, and seeing the whole perfection in the whole process, rather than rather than suffering over the suffering with a second layer, rather than describing it by constantly saying, oh, this is awful, this is awful, this is terrible, this is, narrating it, describing it, having an opinion and a perception about it. But instead of that, just allowing the raw feeling to be there means that you are experiencing everything. You're not trying to make it any better. You're not trying to make it go away or replace it, or so it's very painful. But on the other hand, you get through it quicker, and with real honesty. So all the stuff that I've ever really spoken about and written about has just been talking about how we live, even through very, very, very challenging times, but without suffering.
So I want to jump in, as you're talking about suffering on top of suffering, on top of suffering, and the narrating and the, you said another word, describing.
Yeah.
And, I know actually for me personally in this last few weeks, this has just been this theme of so many beautiful teachers, and we learn about don't take things personal and watch your emotions, and, yet we being committed to living open hearted, fully feeling. So, yes, we're going to feel the pain and the sadness, yet then not letting it. I always compare it to sort of a rip tide with my whole surfing your soul, because those underneath emotions, or if we get into the describing and the narrating, they cause almost a rip tide that can pull us down, versus when we can fully feel the rawness, feel the sadness. And what I'm really excited to learn, with you in this conversation is I only read a couple of your poems. I really kind of wanted to wait to see you do your magic here. Yet I could see right away that this is a tool that when we're in that raw place and we're feeling like we keep repeating the story or being stuck in it versus just feeling it, these words, these poems will shift and create. I mean, they're like bridges to moving forward.
Well, Kate, that is just wonderful because it helps me to describe what happened. Because you know, so I wasn't any kind of poet. And to be quite honest, I am not a fan of poetry. I'm just not. I don't really like to listen to poetry or anything. In other words, I don't like poetic poetry. I know I should do, but I do like Tagore and Rumi and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not very interested in most other kinds of poetry unless it's very practical. So it's strange that for me, what's been happening has come through as poetry. But it's they're called power poems. I've been told by what comes through to call them active power poems, and they do something. So what I'm going to do, if you'll allow me, um, when I was trying to think about the introduction to this book, knowing so many other people don't like poetry as well, apparently when you look at the bestseller list in books, that what comes always bottom is the poetry section.
Wow.
Yeah, you'd be amazed, but all over the world, apparently the poorest sellers of poetry, and people don't always want it. I mean, I know there's loads of us absolutely love it, but we're in the minority. Well, as I said, I'm not one of them either. But this poem, so I thought, how do I even write the introduction? And it came as a poem. So can I read the poem out? And
Please, please.
it will explain deeply what the whole thing is about. Thank you very much. Writing this book felt like my life's holy work, a privileged task from which I've tried not to shirk, because the desire to create it burned like a hole in my side. Until completed, I couldn't rest or abide in the peace that lies beyond all understanding. This urge from my soul was so relentlessly demanding, because the words of my poems are God's, not mine. The truths expressed transmit a potent force divine, soul revealing poem codes with the power to awaken from the suffering of mental noise we've all undertaken. These are spiritually chosen rhymes, and each one a secret code which unlocks a higher consciousness, so miracles are bestowed. How do they work? It's simple, I'll explain. When we raise our frequency again and again by declaring truth and in total reliance on our mystical source, then we're in alliance. And so, using words that energize and inspire with heightened emotions manifests our desire. Just as a mirror gives only our reflection, so our beliefs reflect sorrow or perfection. And composing a poem that is easy to say with magic words to lift is the perfect healing way, which creates in us a program with new beliefs installed. And the rhyming is important because it's easier to recall. Just one more thing about making poems rhyme. In looking for the right words, it takes more focused time. We can write a poem code for whomever we desire to heal, transform, or raise our own energy and inspire. Then, after we've described the invisible perfection behind the apparent negative projection, through reciting our poem, we can now step aside. Just letting go and letting God, we rest and abide. We've transformed our beliefs, removed the clouds from the sun, and so it is already done.
All right, so let's take a sacred pause here for a moment. That is so powerful. And just, for me, every cell of my being, I can just feel the words just sort of slip in and soothe, and it's beautiful. So beautiful. And I noticed right away one thing that really stood out. I didn't record the words before, but I believe it was in reference to trying to discover our soul, really find ourselves, and relentlessly demanding, and how soul revealing power codes, come in. And I do feel like as human beings, I'm so curious about how we sort of lose our light or forget our light or forget our true self. And this, your work is so beautiful. I can only imagine how many people have just been able to really have that wake up moment, hearing and feeling the vibration of each syllable and each word, and the rhyming for recall. So thank you for sharing that.
It's a pleasure, you see, because what the idea is that is exactly as it says. So it's not just, positive thinking, or, what do they, attraction, what do they call it?
Or affirmations
Yes, and
or
all that kind of thing. I mean, which is fine.
Mhm.
It's just that what comes through here is it's something that you work. So how it works is, let's say somebody would. I'll just describe the healing part first. I'll go in that way, because the book that I'm writing, so it's introduced like that, so it explains it, and then it's in, I think it's probably 3 sections or 4. So the first section is actually um, that each poem is a self-inquiry meditation, starting with one that I'm going to, if you allow me, take everybody through, which is called "What is your identity if you are not your name?" And if you really work with that, it's amazing what can happen, particularly if you've never done self-inquiry before. And I've done a video about that, which is just called "What is your identity if you are not your name?" And then also a filmmaker made a little 4-minute film, a very visual thing that was great. It was sort of visually going through what was in the poem. So the first set of poems in the book are meditation, self-inquiry poems that everybody can record in their own voice and read back very slowly, so they can sit down with their eyes shut and do them as a meditation. And then another section in the book is about um, poems that kind of bring you to liberation, really. That's what they're there for. And then the big section is also healing poems. So the book also teaches everybody how to construct their own healing poems for whatever eventuality um, happens. And I've done workshops, you see, where people have learned how to, they've come with a problem, either their own or somebody that they want to work for, and then we've constructed it. I've been shown by spirit a very specific way that these have to be constructed, which are in the book, to make them really active and work. And what's been a blessing for me is the amount of people that have come back and said, "Oh my God, I had this awful situation with my daughter. We weren't talking about it." And I thought, "Oh, I'll write one of these poems." And they've managed to change everything round. Because, of course, like it was saying, as everybody here knows, I know that we all know that what you describe to yourself, it becomes your reality. So this is about how you change that reality, but it's very tailor made towards how you make yourself believe it. Because, you see, for me, affirmations didn't work much because I didn't really believe them. But when I write my own power poem for somebody, I inject in it the what I can believe, and then there's another point which is in the instructions, that if you can't believe that something that you envisage is so awful, if you think it can't be changed, then you just interject something like, "A miracle's happened." And that takes you out the way. It takes you out of your mind trying to figure out, well, I can't see how it could possibly done. So you put "a miracle's happened," and then, oh right, then it makes everybody sit back. Then, oh yeah.
I
So there's
love
very
the
specific
jolt. Yeah.
instructions. Sorry, yeah, yeah.
It's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So We definitely want to know how to access those videos, so that we can, share with other people so they can see these videos. Are they on? They're on your website or on YouTube?
Yes, they're on their website and they're on YouTube. I think if you put what is your, they're only short. I mean, the one that I've done just facing the camera like on Zoom, that's just called "What is your identity if you are
Okay.
not your name," and then and that what it is I just read out the poem and then I read it out really really slowly as a meditation, so people could do what we're going to do tonight.
Perfect.
Doing that.
Perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So that will all be shared in our chat, and people will have links and things to find that. So, do you feel like now's a good time to take us through the identity poem or
Yeah,
exercise,
indeed. I'll just find it.
and let us know what do we need to do? If there any sort of instructional information before we get started with that.
Well, I would say just kind of prepare yourself for the fact that it'll probably take 7 or 8 minutes,
Okay.
and to get really comfortable and make sure that your phone's off, that nobody's going to disturb you. Well,
Okay.
you can pause the video, can't you? You know?
Well, we're gonna mute, and we'll mute, I'm gonna mute myself while you're sharing this, and.
Yeah, and just
Okay,
for everyone to just close their eyes and get comfortable.
okay, perfect.
So I could read the whole poem out, but I'm not going to do it like that. I'll just read it as the meditation. So I'm going to take a lot of time between the sentences, because what it is in self-inquiry is a lot of questions. So you have, a little time to ask these questions yourself. Is that all right?
Give me 1 second because I'm gonna make myself just a tad more comfortable for
Yes,
this.
please do. Yes, absolutely.
So I can fully receive the experience. All right, thank you.
Okay, here we go. So it's just called "What is your identity if you are not your name?" So here we go. What is your identity if you are not your name? So remember, you've got your eyes closed all the time, and you're not waiting. You're not in a waiting consciousness here, waiting for me to say the next line. Just take each question and just work with it. And don't look for an intellectual answer. If in fact, if you get an intellectual answer, just drop it, because the idea of these questions, I must just say, is that they are questions the mind can't actually answer. So every time, each question will lead you to a blank state of mind, if you like. But that blank state of mind isn't just blank. It's the essence of your original nature. It's a place of pure love, because in it, as you'll find, in this blankness, something knows that it's you. Something is aware of your existence. So you could say that it's the knower. And also you'll notice that in that emptiness, in that blank space, there's just no judgment. And if we say that, well, the absence of judgment is love, then that's love that you're experiencing, not an emotion. There's no description. It's an absolute ease, really, without anything in it. So just let the questions be there and allow it to come to a blank space. Don't force yourself to look for an answer. Don't be in a waiting consciousness to see what happens next. Okay, right, here we go. What is your identity if you are not your name? Now, gone is the familiar, and nothing looks the same. Your identity is formed before your first birthday, created by all the names for things that you learnt to say. But you are not your mind, the beliefs or thoughts, labels, descriptions, all the things you've been taught, all the conditioning that made you believe a separate individual has been conceived. Yet the word individual means undivided and connected to the source where all is provided. But this great truth gets overridden. The conditioned mind keeps the gold well hidden, and your personality is a non-reality to which you've been subscribing by your constant describing of everything you see and hear, creating feelings of mortal fear, because the mind is restless and never still. And this addiction to thinking is what makes you ill, ignoring totally what's in between, this present moment. Which is never seen when you're so interested in all the thinking, which just creates more thoughts and sentence linking. But with whom are you having this conversation? There's only you there on investigation. For you are not your mind. This truth is so easy to find. Simply cease for a moment. Whatever you're doing, and instantly you stop accruing more thoughts joining up like paper chains. Just less than a second, you can rest free of pains from this continuous narration of your fertile imagination, relentlessly turning like a hamster on a wheel. But just pause for a moment. Rest and heal. And so, now for a little exercise. Just stop and try this on for size. Imagine you have no memory at all. Your name, your life, you cannot recall. The roles you play, like daughter or son, and all the jobs you've ever done, your age, your shape, your nationality, all you've believed as your reality, where you live or who you know, everything. Just let it go. So now what's left without the mental narration? At last we find silence, our true foundation. This is the kingdom of God, our home, the I am. Your pure being is the only one on the throne. Keep quiet. No matter what the worries or fear, silence underlies all the images that appear. Beyond the mind is an infinite space, discovered in the silence of this present moment place. Keep quiet inside. Rest and abide. Keep quiet. Be still. Let the silence completely fill. So, what is your identity if you are not your name? Gone is the familiar and nothing looks the same. Keep quiet. No matter what the worries or fear, silence underlies all the images that appear. Beyond the mind is an infinite space, discovered in the silence of this present moment place. Keep quiet inside. Rest and abide. Keep quiet. Be still. Let the silence completely fill. Thank you.
It's such a beautiful space to be in, and given that we're doing this, you know, conversation today to play on Thursday. So of course my brain is partly like, yes, I'm monitoring this, conversation, and I just, and the words just kept gently washing over me. So I just was completely like in the experience, and kind of, like, do I need to keep one eye open? I'm like, no, it just, so coming from that perspective of, leading this with you, what really, Mandi, two things I'd like to share, and this is exactly what we'll be doing, when we do this with everyone, is they'll have the opportunity to share a bit their experience. For me, the very first thing, when some of the words were coming through about not being our identity and our race, our gender. I mean, I can't recall the words, the sensation. The first thing that came to me in the middle, and then just now again at the end, I'm so grateful that you're here sharing this with co-creators and that we'll be putting it out, because it's this, in this moment, if every person on the planet read through this experience with you, we would see a vast shift in humanity of peace. Because there's all these guards up in our world right now. I mean, this is another heightened time of division and fear. And then people are attacking other people based on the color of their skin, the gender they identify with. And as you just read that, I mean, you could see I'm still in that space of just for me, it's sort of like this ocean of warmth, and we're all one. We're all one. And a second experience that happened for me is I'll tend to get guides and ancestors and different people coming in, but I kept getting I don't know actually who this is, but it's like a feather, like a feather tickle on my nose and back here. And yeah,
yeah.
So sometimes I ask and I realize it probably doesn't matter, but there's someone ancestor out there that's always, it's the same sensation right here. So it's almost, again, just that bridge, as your words take us to the space that we go right there to that oneness where we're all connected. And then I want to also share, Noelle is sharing, I love how she read it and made my mind slow down. That's quite an achievement. And I noticed that too, because my mind went away from like, oh, here, I'm responsible right now for hosting. And it was like, actually, no, in this moment, that's not necessary. Like I was able to just, the vibration of your voice and
it was just so interesting the way it happened, because when I started to talk about it, I just completely forgot at the beginning what did start this. This had a definite beginning. What it was is that a guy called Harry. Gosh, you know what it is when you're being interviewed. I've completely forgotten his last name. I wish it would come back. But anyway, if people look up what is your identity when you are not your name, there's two videos, and one is the one that he made. Anyway, he approached me and he said that he had met somebody who, I think they knew me from the little book The Joy of No Self, and so he wanted to do a kind of a non-duality type of video. So he came to my house and he said, the subject I want to do is about identity. And I remember thinking, crumbs, how is, because he said it's a 4-minute film, you see. And I thought, how are we going to make a 4-minute film interesting? And how on earth do I even approach it? It's kind of massive. And then I went to sleep, and in the morning, I was just given, I prayed about it, and I just said, I leave it with you. Thank you for giving me the answer. Went to sleep. And then I woke up in the morning, and something just said, just get your iPad out and start typing. And this just flowed out. And even I thought, oh, that's good. I just thought, my goodness, it just came out. And this voice, you see, I'm just saying with what you said about the world, it said the world needs to do this, because if it could get out there, I mean, I just wish I could find a publisher, not for myself being all famous. I don't care about the money or anything like that, or fame. All I want is that people would ask themselves that one question and be shown how to ask it, because if you don't ask it right, then you think you're asking about your personality when you would say, what is my identity, or who am I, there needs this to be this guidance. So then, as we realize, as we take away the roles that we play, the description and every picture that we have of ourselves, then you're left with nothing, but it's everything. And I agree with you. I just think if somebody was shown how to ask that question, and let's say they were just made to sit and ask that question and just see, you end up giggling. And I think particularly the line that I was given that I love is, imagine you have no memory at all, because you can't do it, can you? The mind can't do it. The minute that you imagine you have no memory at all, your mind just goes blank, doesn't it? So it is an important thing, and I thank God that Harry was brought into my life. And he didn't like poetry, so at first he wasn't sure. And I said, I don't like poetry, but somehow this was the way. And he did a marvelous little film, which just took 4 minutes.
Yeah, it's okay. There's so many things in what you just said. So I feel so blessed. And because I actually call myself a soul scribe, and I would do these things where words just come through me like for somebody else, or even like Noelle years ago when her sister passed, and these words just came through me, this poem, and I sent it to her, and she just was like, oh, well, how long did that take you? And I was like, well, it just came through. I just wrote the words down and passed it along, and it's these soul vibrations, these words that are talking, to our soul. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. She's putting in there, The Cardinals Are Calling. That was the title.
Oh,
And again, like not even remembering because it comes through. So are you familiar with World Unity Week?
no.
So we are very involved in World Unity Week, and I'm inviting you to, we'll give you information and everything about it. It's a fabulous platform and opportunity. We've shared that with Sebastian as well. Noelle's putting the link in the chat for you. And this is a place that you can do what you're doing now. You can hold a 30-minute live, you can do a video, you can put your movie up there. There's all these opportunities. It's a week-long platform of sharing. And so we can talk more about that after. Yet I really want to plant that seed, because when you said, oh, my wish is the publisher or the this or the that, these things can absolutely come forth, and I am confident to say that's my belief, as you, especially this group of people of World Unity Week, the vibrations are there, and then someone sees it or hears it, and they're like, oh, we want to do this. And so there's so many opportunities, and that's what co-creators convergence is really about. Bob and Noelle are really two of the original stewards. They're light partners, and they have their own work, the light partner. And yet their number one offering is in co-creators convergence. And this is what happens. It's like if you're holding the candle and you light the other person's wick, and so on and so on and so on. And that's what co-creators is about, and igniting and shining our light and partnering together and co-creating, with the universe. So this is beautiful. And so as we share this with others, do you have any other guidance as far as when we reflect on that poem, if people might have questions, or do you have any other guidance, or maybe what's come up for you when you do this work with other people, as far as continuing to cultivate the inquiry?
Yes. Well, in the book, I've done other poems that are similar. In other words, there's one called Awareness of Itself, and the poem is a set of instructions like that was really. So that will give them a lot of guidance, and it's just a great idea to record them for yourself, and just, I love what you said at the beginning, because I really love that. I love, for instance, I've been very involved with Balanced View, and that's run by the founder of that is Candice Denver, and she just taught short moments many times a day, really, and it was just like what you were saying, and that's all my videos have really been about that at one time or another over the years. It's not so much trying to, drop the thoughts. I mean, I remember Esther Hicks saying, it was just so quick, she said, you just have to ask yourself, are you in expansion or contraction? I thought,
Yeah.
what a quick way. Are you in expansion or contraction? That's really quick. And also, as many little analogies that help to do the same one thing, which is to break this addiction, which is worse than any kind of heroin, to being interested into what the mind is doing. It's not trying to get rid of thoughts. You can't get rid of thoughts. As soon as you try to get rid of thoughts, you just get more thoughts. So that's not the deal. That's not what we're trying to do. It's the interest and the curiosity of the thinking. It's to just allow them to be arising. Let them just be like you suddenly become aware of a fan in the background that you haven't been aware of for the last hour. Just let them go on in the background. And when they come to trip you up, either thoughts of self-condemnation or condemning somebody else, because the mind is just like, it's just a judge. That's all it is. It's like window wipers: good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. That's all. I mean, that's what it's designed for. It's designed to actually keep you safe. So all it wants to do is just keep you at home and just be looking out all the time, looking out, sort of thinking everybody's treacherous, and judging everybody, but we don't have to listen to its judgments, except when we need to do it because we're planning a trip. So it's like you're saying, just allowing short moments. I mean, a short moment is, that's a short moment. It's cutting the ribbon. It's like if somebody came into this conversation now and said to one of us, "Oh, where are the biscuits?" Well, you call them something different. Cookies. Where are the cookies? Yes, biscuits are
Take
very
us back
different.
to the UK.
They say, where's the cookies or where's the candy? And we were having a conversation. Well, what would happen is I'd say, oh, just a moment. Yes, top drawer on the left, da 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 da. And what's the first thing that I say when I come back to you? It's oh, where was I? Because in that moment you've cut the ribbon, haven't you? You've cut the paper chain. So all we need to do is just keep cutting these paper chains rather than cultivating the paper chains. And the worst time of all is when you're on the toilet, because people almost consider it an intrusion between what you were doing or what you're doing next. It's like they just, oh, and the thoughts are so busy and they're listening to them. So we just have to keep dropping the interest in the thinking over and over again. And these are these short pauses, and ultimately all the teachings, absolutely all the teachings, certainly all the teachings I've ever read, whether it's Ramana Maharshi, Catholicism or Christianity or Buddhism. I used to do different types of Buddhism and different schools of Buddhism, and everything comes to this one thing: dropping interest in thinking. I mean, the only difference between a sage and a so-called ordinary person is that the sage hears thoughts just the same, but they're not interested in them, and that's all we're doing. That's what all of this is. We're all doing in our different ways. That's what Jesus taught for a start.
As you're speaking, it is so. Again, let just see which thought wants to pop up first. It's reminding me when we were opening, before we started to record, we shared with you about the Sanctuary of Healing in the UK outside of Manchester, and the Joseph Communications and Michael Ricci, and a few of the things that you've been saying. It's the same vibration, which is love. It's love, and the more we merge in this vibration, just the upliftment, the bliss, that we go to that place that you were assisting us in getting to in reading the poem, where our thoughts are settled, and we're here, and we're in this space of vastness when we release and let go of the identity, my name. When I come to Maui, I literally I came when I was a child, and my mom bought me this jacket, and it had a patch on it, Karen and Kalena, which is my name in Hawaiian. And my best friend used to call me Kalena. And when I come here, I automatically feel the vibration of Kalena, Kalena. I changed my name when I'm over here, so I was like, I'm a little island girl, Kalena, and it's that shift that you talked about. It's that little quick break that opens more space up into me of my true essence. And we can do this anywhere, and that's what I'm sensing and seeing now, that's what these power poems do. It's so beautiful. So Noelle is she, when you were reading the poem, she shared on the chat that there was an image that she might like to share. So Noelle, yes, I'm calling you back on screen. And if you want to unmute and perhaps share.
Oh, I love that.
Soul family, those who gather around you based on energy and essence, not on blood, race, or status. They bring you unconditional love and support when you need it most and share the same energetic vibration. You come together as one.
Beautiful.
That heart in the background. This is such a testament to just our gathering here today, because the timing, we kept shifting, and then Mandi, you shared about needing to change that relationship with your dog and moving on, and how when we finally came together today in this moment, it was really divine timing. And that's what that image, Noelle, thank you so much for sharing it, because our souls really communicate and feel each other, and when we can, as humans, let up on that clutter of the thoughts and the brain, we can feel this communication, this vibratory communication, which I believe is how we're meant to live. And so let's see, I see a question in here. Who are you without your skin? So it's powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I remember something similar like that. That Eckhart Tolle did a little exercise where he asked you to imagine. Now we call it a skip. I think you would call it a dumper. So if you'd have one outside your house if you were putting everything in it, and then they'd come and take it away. A big dumper, and this dumper had your name on it, and you threw everything in it. Do you know that, when you just throw everything in it from your life, everything, good, bad things, just chock full until it's absolutely full up and it's got your name on it. And then when it's completely full of all the rubbish you've carried around with you, not just the rubbish but all the good stuff as well, all the memories, everything, and then you pull your name off it, and then you look at the dumper truck with all that stuff in, but now it's not got your name on. What does it mean? And I remember doing that years and years ago, and just I was so struck by it. I just thought, wow, it means nothing without your identity tied to it. It just means nothing. And yeah, so yes, I love that. Yeah.
That's powerful. That is a great exercise. Could you share with us a little about one, I think there's more than one, of your near-death experiences, and maybe a little of what might have happened or how it propelled you towards this revealing the soul work?
Yeah. Well, I think the main one, because I was a bit clumsy, so there's been a few. Yeah.
I
But
actually have a theory on that. I'm going to share with you after, so I'm glad you said that. Okay.
are you sure you want me? Yeah. Well, the main one was, I was sort of in my well, I might have been only about 19 or 20. Anyway, I was driving a motorbike. Well, it was hardly a motorbike, it was a moped, really, but it had a little electric thing on it. And it was only going at, 30 miles an hour down a high street. And then there was shops on the left, what we call a parade. I don't know what you call it, just some shops on the left. And as I'm just driving down the road, and I can see out my peripheral vision, there's a woman getting into her car, just a little car, a mini. Don't know if you have a mini. And I just, in a split second, I couldn't believe what she was doing, because she just came out the shop and she went into, I saw her going to the middle of the road. She didn't look anywhere. She didn't look behind her, in front of her, in the mirror, nothing. Just started the car, and it's a very busy road. And as the car and the bike was about to meet, I suddenly saw, there's no way out of this. I'm going to die. I mean, definitely, it's going to be a crash. And something just said, let go of the handlebars. Well, that is very contrary to what you what you want to do is hold on that even tighter. And it just said, let go of the handlebars. And I can't say it was an outside voice. It just sounded like a thought, but it didn't seem like my thought. Anyway, I let go. I thought, well, I'm going to die. I let go. And I let go. And then what happened in my experience was that I felt like I was being lifted up and up and up and up. And as I was being lifted up, there was this there was no tunnels or people or anybody. It was just a feeling like you've walked into, I don't know, a 10-star hotel, and you know that everybody's at your beck and call, and that there's nothing too good for you, and everything will be done. Just, you only have to think it. Not that I've been in one of those places, but anyway. But there was this feeling of absolute love, really. And as I'm going up, I can see all the shops and the people below, but I can see through them. And I started to laugh as I'm going higher. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's all a dream. It's just a dream. It's all been a dream, and I'm starting to laugh. And I remember thinking incredibly down to earth thoughts. That was the thing. I remember thinking, oh, great, I don't have to finish with that boyfriend now, which was something I was dreading. And then I was thinking, as I went higher up, I had lower thoughts. I thought, oh God, I don't have to worry about my overdraft. I mean, I actually remember thinking this. I've never heard anybody say this. They all have heavenly thoughts, but no, mine was very down to earth. And I'm going up and up, and there was something else. I don't have to hoover the flat. That was it. Yeah, I don't have
my.
to hoover the apartment. And just things like that. And then I was just aware of all this incredible love. And then as I went up, there was sort of seemed to be a really strong green light, and then what looked like almost like trees, like big brown columns, but there weren't trees, and they had doors in them like that. And I just was thinking, oh, I just knew that behind each door, I somehow knew it was something wonderful and full of light and color, and I'm almost going like, oh, which one should I choose, which one? And I'm just about to go, and then suddenly I was on the ground with this massive crowd around me. But the thing was,
Oh,
is that
wow.
my motorbike was a complete write-off, and the car was a complete write-off.
Oh my
And
God.
when I opened my eyes, nobody could believe it. They couldn't, because apparently I was very thin and little in those days. There was such a force of impact. I went through the back windscreen, the back screen of the car, and went out through the front. That my body did that, while the motorbike went up in the air and crashed down. And there's this woman crying over me, and and I'm saying, well, don't worry, I'm okay. And not only was I okay, I didn't have a bruise on me. I had nothing on me. I didn't even have whiplash. I didn't have any aches or pains, and I didn't even have aftershock. And some person, because he got there before the ambulance, rushed me to hospital. They couldn't find one thing, and all I was doing was just smiling inanely. My dad comes rushing in and hugging. I said, I'm fine. And then I went home and had lunch and just got on with my day. But then for the rest of my life, what happens when you have experiences like that? You watch just about every YouTube video by everybody, and you read all the books like by Eben Alexander and Anita Majani, and you listen to everybody's experience, because it's like you're craving to know if they felt the same way as you, and of course they do, even though their
Right.
experiences are
Right.
different. So yeah, yes, that's it. And I have to just say, don't think that I stayed in this enlightened state, because it was just a state. That's the point. That's not what enlightenment is. It's the most ordinary of ordinariness. It's not anything that people think it is, But and something that feels so liberating and blissful may stay for a while, but then ordinary life just takes over. But you, something's left. You see, something's
Right,
left there.
right,
But you don't have to have that experience to experience everything.
right.
Hence the
Well,
poem.
we'll need to schedule a Thursday co-creators convergence conversation around near-death experiences. Everyone can sort of bring and share, and we can go into it. So the only thing I'll say about a little from different readings and my own life experiences about a few times is that I feel like maybe our soul. Okay, let me just say about me. I had a car accident when I was 23 where many people died in that spot. It was in Mexico. My sister saw the car. She said if Karen was in the passenger seat, there's no way she could survive this, the whole thing. I used to very matter of factly just say, oh, there was an angel in between me and the dashboard. And then years later, I was like, wow, there must, like, you got the let go of the handlebars, I was like, wow, there really must have been an angel. So then I decided years later, as I just studied and learned and explore more, I looked back and I identified like 3 different times where I really could have died. Once when I was 3 and I was on a pony and it ran off and I fell and got trampled. So, but the pony didn't step on me, right? But I felt like there was these exit points for the soul, and just my soul said, oh no, not yet, let's stick around. So I don't know about that. We'll table that for maybe a Thursday conversation.
Oh, I'd love to hear
um
about your experiences. Yeah, I
so
really would.
yeah, so I do want to ask you, you do these revelation healings, and I did notice that on your side, I don't know if it's with all your work or simply the poems, and so I'm going to have you clarify this, that it's donation based. So maybe you could share a little bit about, because I know we have, about, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. If you could share a little bit about what somebody could expect when they have a revelation healing with you,
Yeah. Well,
or a
um,
session.
yes. Well, what I do is I kind of help them to help themselves by what they would do is they would write to me and say what it is that they have got going on. It could be something wrong with their body, something wrong with somebody else's body. It could be a financial situation or anything at all where they're not happy. They're not comfortable, and then if they tell me the details, I write a poem that reveals the soul of the situation. Um, I, and I try and teach, and then I show them how to use the poem. There's a specific way that when they get their poem, they're supposed to read it 4 times at once, one after the other, with great meaning, and then they do the same, and then after that, they just read it once in the morning and once in the evening, every day until they see the situation improving. And then as they see it improving, but maybe something's not improving, then they themselves need to change the words, but they check with me to make sure that they're in the right format. So for instance, somebody rang me up because their mother was having a stroke so badly that the doctors say that she probably won't live the night. So I always say, rubbish. And then let's just do a poem. So I wrote a poem that was kind of seeing the perfection. It's always just about, the poems always reveal the perfection. They're not even trying to be positive and just twist it round. They're just seeing the perfection. And I'll read a little one out for you in a minute. And then so she did live through the night, and then there was this. So I got other things. So I got the daughter to keep saying, well, what's happening now? And they said, well, this is better, but this is terrible. And they're saying she needs a lumbar puncture and she won't have one, and everybody's saying she has to have one. And I'm saying it's dreadfully painful. So I said, oh no, we're not having a lumbar puncture. Let's correct that. And so we changed the words and put some words in, and then she didn't need a lumbar puncture. And then as it went on, then as she got better a bit, they said she's got as well as she'll ever be. She'll never be able to come home because she won't be able to go upstairs. She won't be able to cook. So I was, oh rubbish. So let's do that, because I'm showing the other person. It's not me that's doing it. I want them to be able to learn it for themselves. So then we just write in what we want. I mean, it's like having a magic paintbrush. We don't worry whether that works or doesn't work. We're not trying to be anything like positive or do any kind of magnificent attraction. We're just putting in what we want. And then she gets so much better that she starts making everybody onion bhajis, in the ward, you know. And then of course she comes home and then she can manage the stairs and everything's fine. And so you change the poem as it goes. So it's a very living thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, you know. But you always only start with perfection. I mean, I don't know if we've got time for me to read a bit
Oh,
of what.
we'll have time. We'll have time. I'd like to share this inspired thought. As
Please.
you're speaking, did you ever have, don't remember exactly what it was when I was a child, but it was these magic markers, and it was like there was a clear one you'd write and you couldn't
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
And then there was a different one you'd rub over it and then the words would reveal.
Yes, yes,
Are
definitely.
you're aware of,
Yeah, totally.
this is what I'm hearing, like this inspired thought, that this is, you're like the magic marker. Your poems are like the magic marker. So we know what we want to come out of us. And, so you're sort of that clear one that's getting it all through. And then when we participate, it reveals to us,
Oh,
these
you are
aspects about
amazing.
ourselves.
You are amazing at putting things in a way that is visual, and I mean that is perfect. Honestly,
It's inspired. Like it's as you said, what are you are if you're not your name? So it isn't necessarily me, Karen's thought. It's what I receive, right? The inspired thoughts that come through. It's so beautiful. And and you understand this because this is what, this is the big ocean we're playing and swimming in of,
oh,
of
wow,
love and inspiration.
that's
So just to jump back a tiny bit to our near-death experiences, there's an organization, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before, but
that's
yeah.
something I've heard of. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're, and I was very, for some reason, Anita Morshani's book, Dying to Be Me, really moved. I know the reason. It really moved me because I really was such a people pleaser, and growing up in the Catholic school that I grew up in, we had some great conversations with Sebastian about that. It just, we can lose ourselves, and that's exactly what you're offering here, is like, so that we can just reveal the truth of who we are.
Mm.
So yes, please read your poem, and then let me just check in here. Yeah, and that's exactly what even Noelle is saying.
Oh, thank you, Noel, for asking that. That's nice. Well, now, yes. I mean, everybody can do these, and everybody will have amazing results. You've just got to trust them. Um, yeah. Well, I'm not going to. It's fine. How long? It'll take me about 1 minute to read
You
it.
can pick a couple. We have time.
Well, this was about. Oh dear, right. Oh dear, the Apple Watch speaking. It's so embarrassing. It's on silent, it keeps interrupting.
The
Um,
Apple Watch writing a poem with you.
it's always doing things like that. Anyway, this one was for my dog Howard, and I've used poems with him many times, like through these 15 years, and it's always had amazing results. Now, this time it was his time to pass, and I knew that. So I did write a poem for him, but I was a little bit half-hearted because I felt that it I didn't need to do anything about it. Do you know what I mean? It had to be the way it was. So I did write him things that helped his comfort. But this is going back a while. This one particularly was when he got run over, and he but as soon as he got run over, a friend brought him back. Basically, he went for a walk. He was, had his ball in his mouth, and it rolled into the road. He chased after it, and a car hit him. So the friend had to carry him all the way back, and he just looked terrible. And of course, they said, ring the vet, ring the vet. And I thought, no, I'm not ringing the vet first. I'm going to do the poem first and then I'm going to ring the bell. Of course, they think you're mad and uncaring. But I thought, no, I've got to get this right. I've got to see him as just this spiritual being as he is and see the perfection, and then I'll take him to the vet, which is what I did. And it was amazing what happened. It was so amazing what happened that he was actually put in the newspaper by the vet.
Wow. Wow.
So this was the poem. Yes, so what all had happened, you see. Oh yeah, after the prayer, the first amazing thing was that when they x-rayed him after this huge hit that he'd only fractured some bone in his leg. So that was amazing. The vet was amazed because the friend who was a doctor, she described what had happened. Anyway, so right, this is it. And you always write it as if it's you, because if you're seeing, you can't make matter better. This is the first point that people make the mistake in trying to heal, is they're thinking there's somebody over there and that they have to make matter better. Well, that is not the mystic way. Mystic means merging with the I am, you know. The mystic way, the highest way, is to only ever do the poem for yourself, because it's you that's got the thought, you know. It's the same in Ho'oponopono, which is, I love you, thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. What you're actually saying is, I love you, God, please forgive me for thinking you were a person when I'm so sorry, thank you. You know, that's what, it's the same thing, see?
Yeah.
So that's the principle. Here we are. I am clear, pristine, and completely whole, absolutely perfect in tissues, cells, and bone. I rest now comfy as my tip-top health's revealed. In God's loving allness is my perfect wellness sealed. Who I am at source completely reflects Him, of course. No accidents, nor lumps or cracks are known to God, so no negative effects ever could impede my total health and joy, as God lovingly beholds and protects His perfect little boy. Love, like cement, filled in any lumps or cracks. What perfect filler! Love to the max. Everything's been put right because it never was put wrong. My body's spiritual in substance. So here, right now, I'm well and strong. I'm completely fine with all I'm healing. I'm completely fine with all I'm feeling, trusting my body's rapid healing. And then, because he was messing about, he was getting better, but he kept messing with his wound. So I put, and I easily leave my wound alone and let it heal in skin and bone. And then he had to have one of those lampshades round his neck. So then I put, I'm relaxed with the e-collar round my neck, which stays on a week till the vet does a check. And then they thought they found a lump, you know, which they weren't sure what that was it cancerous or not. So I put, and even though they found a lump, it turned out to be just a benign bump. And then I got the result. Well, they can't. They were so sure it was cancer. It felt like cancer. They're absolutely baffled because it's not cancer, and they expected it to be. They absolutely. And then the healing, and then they had a little operation just to remove the lump. That's how they found out it was right. The healing angels were with me through and after the operation, and no traces of cancer will be seen on investigation. Because I'm so full of light, the lab has found no cancer in sight. Nothing destructive ever entered me or stained my perfect recovery, because my high frequency vibration, this is an important line, my high frequency vibration quells any creation of anything bad or anything that could make me sad. In Christ's name it is done. Can't wait to sit out in the sun. I'm comfy and perfectly at ease. I eat well, drink well, and sleep in peace. Well, it goes on like that. So, and the reason it goes on a bit long is because sometimes you have to write a longer one so that you have done enough that by the end of it, you really feel released from your fear of the picture you're creating. So if you're writing one that's too short, you've not done that enough. But by writing a long one, you've addressed everything, and by the end of it I feel fantastic. The negative pictures have been just taken away, evaporated. So that's how it works, you see. So somebody comes to me and I write them a poem with their help, and then I show them what to do with it, and then they take it and work with it.
Poem is so powerful. It's so beautiful. I see this vision of I one time participated in a sort of a chaplain opportunity with words and the harp playing in a hospital. So we were in the hospital chapel, yet it went out to every TV room in the hospital rooms. So I saw you on this channel, maybe in a hospital, just doing what you just did, and sort of coaching people through, and whether they're able to write or to speak into a recorded, into their phone and record, going into all these hospital rooms and these just healings, these returning to balance in the body. It's really beautiful.
I'd love to do that.
Really.
That's why I'm putting this book together.
And what is the name of the book coming? Do you have a title for the new book?
Well, no, that's the trouble. I'm really having such a hard time finding, everybody would like something like Chicken Soup for the Soul, wouldn't they? Like a really brilliant title. And the reason that you need a brilliant title is because if you really want to help people through what you're doing, you need people to want to take notice of it. And I just can't. So I'm open. If anybody can come, it's really hard to find a title that encompasses everything, because if you say it's a poetry book, that puts some people off, and if you say it's a spiritual book, that puts other people off. And it's about enlightenment and freedom, and that's what the poem's about. Your total freedom from this identity you think you are, and also it's got the healing side, which is really all part of the same thing. But I can't find a title, so something came to me at the beginning, which was the active power of. Anyway, it wasn't great. You see, that's why I haven't written it. I need to find this title. So any of you wonderful people that come up with something from the angels for this, that would be wonderful. I'd consider anything.
I say it.
So beautiful. So
yeah. Thank you.
So much richness here. Mandi, I would like you to tell me your website again.
Yeah. Yes, it's healingbyrevealingsoul.com.
Yeah. I think I had put a "the" in there when we announced you last week. It's just healingbyrevealingsoul.com, not the soul.
That's it.
By revealing
the
soul.
in it. Yeah, just Healing by Revealing Soul.
Healingbyrevealingsoul.com. So as we, as in fashion with every co-creator conversation, we always want to continue the conversation for hours and hours, and there's always so much rich material that would allow us to do so, yet we choose to have a little cutting off point.
Yeah.
So as we enter into this cutting off point of this conversation for the time being, what would you like to share? What's one or two, inspired words you'd like to share with us to, to just sort of, as I said, close today's conversation?
I think it's the most important thing for me is that people do not suffer over their suffering. That when something that I learned is that if you feel like crying, let's say something's awful's happened, well, like my dog dying, or your sister, or whatever it is, or some tragic act, whatever it is, or if you've been offended or hurt by somebody, and you feel like crying, then just say to yourself, right, I'm just going to suspend time and I'm going to really cry, but I'm not going to think. I'm not going to allow one thought in. Because the minute you cry without thought, it can't sustain it. you know how if we cry, we use it as a good excuse to bring everything that's ever happened to us in. And we make it worse, and we indulge it, But when you don't do that, and you just say, right, I feel like crying. Like today I came back from swimming and I had to face an empty house. This is one of the first times, without the dog. And it just, the grief just came up, and I just bent over while I was stood up. I just howled and howled and howled, but I didn't have one thought. I just allowed it to just come out. And then when it came out, I was just fine, because it had been allowed completely, but not described. But what I remember, I'm sure we all remember, what I would have done is I'd have brought in everybody that's ever been rotten to me and my poor childhood and everything, I'd maximise it. But when you realise that this is indulging and suffering over the suffering, and then when you are suffering, when things hurt or they're painful, just don't add thought, just feel the feeling. And just like you said at the beginning, just keep having short pauses, tiny pauses throughout the day. And then you see how attached you are. Because when you don't want to pause, you realise, it's because you're really attached. You're really attached to that thought and you want to continue. You see how addicted you are when you put in these short pauses. So I'm all for short pauses, definitely.
So beautiful. Mandi, thank you so, so much. We really appreciate you being here. We look forward to more.
Join us next week when Jane Sorby, the spiritual director of the White Eagle Lodge of the Americas, leads us in conversation about global hypnosis. See you then.